Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you've, you've waited, and I think this is going to be the most exciting panel session that you're going to have before we close for the day. So let me quickly invite Mercy Dabiru Ojo. Please come and take your seat. Mercy is the director IITA Goat Seed Nigeria. Let me invite Temitope Adegoreye, managing partner Sahel Consulting. Let's encourage him with a round of applause. And then I'd like to invite Steve Magige from Tanzania. He's the country director for NIDA. And then myself, Godwin Natsi. I'm the country director for Sasakawa. All right, thank you so much. And I think this is a business meeting. And for a business meeting like this, it gives and presents opportunity for each and every one of us. And last year I was in Rwanda, and we had this kind of meeting there. And after the meeting, the former president, he decided to invest $120 million in cassava, having listened to what was happening in Nigeria, where he was the former president. And I believe that today, as we discuss and show you practical examples of what is happening, some of you will respond to the call by Dr. Abbas and begin to invest in the sector. The reality is that, and I'm happy the farmers are here, you have a role, and a very important role to play in the seed system, especially for cassava. As the model which we're using was presented on the board, you'll see that you have a big role to play. The women we talk about in Benue today, we started with them when they had about 2-3 hectares. After the first year, they discovered that they could sell not just the roots, but also they could sell the stems. And in fact, there was more profit in selling the stems. And because of that, their profits multiplied threefold. And that was what made them to expand. But again, what we were able to do, which Alfred said we should show probably tomorrow, is how we were able to manage weeds in cassava. And because of that, these women, and I think the video is there, at some point we'll play the video, these women were able to expand, and they were able to conquer weeds in cassava. This is the kind of thing we want to share with you this evening. Not just for Nigeria, but also some other countries, especially Tanzania, that my friend Steve Magige will be talking about. The other thing was that cassava yields in Nigeria actually more than doubled on this women's farm. And what they were able to do, which again responds to what Dr. Abbas said, there was a company that was established in Benue for processing ethanol. And when they established the factory, the concern was that there is going to be food insecurity because this company will consume all the cassava and turn it into ethanol. However, because of the contribution of these women, they were able to push their materials to that company, making more money. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of story we want to share with you. And I'm glad that the Honorable Minister is here, because when the senior minister was going, I was saying, oh, Honorable Minister, this is the most exciting session you have to be around. And he told me that, look, don't worry, my deputy is going to be here. And thank you so much, Ma, for being here and for being a partaker of this good news that we are sharing with you this evening. But this is what has happened in Nigeria. Before now, cassava stems were not sold. Nobody could sell cassava stems. You just go into somebody's farm and then you pick as much as you could and you go and plant. Today, that is a gold mine that farmers are selling cassava stems, not just the roots. And I think the story in Sierra Leone, if we take this approach and we help you build a seed system here, Sierra Leone might even do better, because you will sell the stems, you will sell the leaves, and then you also sell what? The roots. And even you can move further to sell also the peels, because we have a technology that converts the peels into feed. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is a short story about Nigeria. Let me pass the microphone to Tanzania, where we have Steve Magige working with farmers to do a similar thing, to share with us what is happening there. Steve, over to you.
And at NIDA, we have a tagline that says, a business solution to poverty. So we are using business solution to address challenges that are cropping in the field. As Sasakawa country director said, initially in most of the African countries, we used cassava farmer used to get planting material either by recycling from their harvest or by getting from the government and the NGOs, and sometimes they can take from relatives and the friends. But in Tanzania, we have serious diseases, CBSD and CMD, which when they enter into your field, they can destroy up to 80 to 100%, and sometimes you can get zero from your field. And the most way that is used to escaberate the disease is the exchange of planting material. So we had some different initiatives, starting of making sure that we have varieties which are resistant to CBSD and the CMD, but also the ones that have characteristics that are preferred by farmers. And also we had another intervention to work toward the quality assurance protocol, because before this intervention, which was supported by Bill and Melinda Gates and other donors, cassava was not among the crops that needed certification. And the other intervention that we did is after having the superior varieties produced by researchers, having established and strengthened quality assurance, then we thought that the products that will come from the researchers, the varieties with all good characteristics, will just stay in the shelves of the researchers and in the field within the research areas. So we came up with a deployment methodology to make sure that farmers are receiving high quality planting material from researchers. And we had a business model that will assure the material reach farmers, still with the quality that with the good quality. And also the model assures profitability to the seed multipliers, so that they can do the seed multiplication business in a perennial terms. they'll be encouraged and motivated by profit to continue doing the seed multiplication business. But the important thing is affordability on the side of farmers. The model assures that the seed multiplier minimize their profit, minimize their cost of operation, so that they can make the product, the seed, affordable to farmers. And also the other thing is to have a decentralized model that assures the seed will be very close to farmer at the time when they want and at the quantity that they will need. But also we worked on having, because the seed system alone cannot work effectively, we developed the supporting structure of the seed system by having the association of seed growers, who the association is helping with coordination for the inspection to make sure that the seed are inspected, because it's very difficult for 700 farmers to go to the TOSCI office and ask for inspection, and it's also costly. So they have the association that is coordinating for inspection, and also the association is helping with the marketing, because at the end they need to sell the planting material. If they don't sell, then they will be demotivated and they will quit the seed production business. Apart from that, seed production needs cash up front, and most of the financial institutions, they find very difficult to provide financial services to farmers, especially cassava farmers. So we established savings and credit cooperative societies that has tailor-made the financial services product to suit the seed producers. For example, the timing. We know cassava is an annual crop, so the repayment starts after 9 to 12 months, but also it is tailored in terms of the amount and the repayment models. The other thing is that having a good seed alone, it cannot assure that there will be high productivity. Then we are training our cassava seed entrepreneur together with the farmers on the digital tools like the cassava seed tracker, especially for TOSCI and extension agents. But also we have other tools that help to increase productivity of cassava, like Akilimo, So from the Akai project. Currently, with all these interventions, we have 700 cassava seed entrepreneurs at different classes of the seed system, producing and sell cassava seeds. The cassava seed entrepreneur, the 700, they are all profitable, and the profit that they get is they get the profit of average of $400 per acre, and the profit is motivating them to continuing producing cassava seeds. The other thing is that cassava farmers, they are buying from the certified sources, from the CSE, something that had not happened before. So they are buying, and initially when we started, most of the buyers were from NGOs and the district council. But now, the last sales, 80% of the sales went to individual cassava farmers. And the other attribute for farmers to buy cassava seeds from CSE is the benefit that they are getting from the seed. Dr. Lawrence Kent talked about the 81% increase when they use certified seeds as opposed to recycling seeds. Yes, maybe in a nutshell.
All right, thank you so much. Please, a round of applause to Steve Magige. Thank you so much for what's happening there. So you see that in Tanzania, it's been demonstrated that if you use the same variety, the only difference is that it is certified, then you are assured of at least 80% yield increase above those that use anyhow varieties. And this is one of the drivers that is pushing farmers to actually do what? To buy stems in that part of the continent. And I think it can happen here in Sierra Leone if we are able to come together and have an initiative that can help us have a seed system in the country. Let me go to Temi to tell us about how processors, because we have processors here. What is their role in the seed system, given the background of what is happening in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Dr. Godwin. Good evening, everyone. While Dr. Abbas was presenting, I know he asked this question, how many private sector companies are in the room? And even farmers and the number of people raised their hands. So it's good to see that we have a number of private sector companies who are here and who are really trying to listen very carefully and jump into the opportunity to make money. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, for private sector organizations, if I will speak like one of you who I am, is really to, of course, maximize profit. And I want to say that there is huge profit in cassava seed production, especially from a private sector perspective, if you're a private sector cassava processor. And we're seeing that also in Nigeria. As part of the Basics 2 project, when we first started, one of the issues we noted or realized was that we have a very actively growing cassava processing sector in Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava in the world, meaning that, well, of course, we need to convert cassava to a lot of high-end use cases in terms of food and industrial applications. So we have a number of companies that were springing up to really process cassava into value-added products. But many of these companies have very similar challenges, and it's the fact that they have huge factories, invested thousands, millions in setting up these factories, but they cannot access raw material, which is primarily cassava roots. And that's really frustrating, and my elder brother, Luigi Lucas, is in the room, so he could tell you the challenges faced by cassava processors in trying to access raw material, cassava roots. And we realized that the biggest challenge here is the mismatch between what the processor expects and what the local farmers or smallholder farmers are producing. Processors want specific varieties with very specific qualities or characteristics or attributes. You're expecting some minimum percentage of starch content in the cassava, maybe minimum 18%, 20% starch content. A processor wants cassava with high dry matter content. And of course, we know that there are quite a number of improved cassava varieties coming from the research institutes, research pipeline that should be ready to actually solve many of these challenges by the private sector. But adoption and take-up by smallholder farmers is really very low. And that's one of the issues within seed systems, especially undeveloped seed systems, that we really need to solve, including in Sierra Leone. That's one of the things that has to go into our seed roadmap. But we noticed that there are actually an opportunity if we leverage the Basics 2 model in trying to address this specific challenge of processors. We understand that because of that challenge, many of the processors have really started to explore multiple solutions. They are backward integrating into cassava production. So if they are backward integrating into cassava production, meaning that they have their own cassava farms as nucleus farms, and they are also working with some farmers to make sure that they have access to the roots for their factories. So why don't we leverage the Basics 2 approach and the cassava modification technologies to really help these processors actually control their own destiny by making sure that they are producing their own cassava stems or cassava seeds, which they will give to their farmers or house growers to multiply for roots in their factory. In that case, they are controlling their supply chain from end to end, and they can actually determine the quality of cassava root that ends up in the factory. And so the processor-led model of Basics 2 is basically very simple. It's really making sure that we're working with the processors, equipping the processors to ensure that they are producing the right cassava stems, which they give to their farmers or house growers in this case, or in-growers. Now, house growers would be when the processors are working with farmers outside of the processor's nucleus farm. So these farmers are using their own lands. The processors basically just guarantee them inputs for their production. An in-grower model would be when the processor has access to, maybe a few hundreds or thousands of hectares of land, and you basically just allocate an hectare or 2 hectares each to the farmers within your growing network. And processors in Nigeria are basically exploring these two models to collaborate with the farmers. We're working with them to make sure that they are picking up the right planting materials coming out of the research system, which will go through the likes of Dr. Mercy, IIT, Go Seed, and Umudike Seed, which are the early generation seed entities that are picking up these materials, multiplying them into foundation seed, and they are giving this to the processors. Processors basically give this to the farmers to multiply their own cassava stems, and they are really producing root for the factories. And we've received many, currently as we stand today, we're working with 9 processors in Nigeria who are operating at different scales. Initially, it was a little bit of challenge to have the processor really commit a lot of investment into engaging with these farmers. We're beginning to see a lot of changes in that. As we speak now, we have over 250 farmers who are in the network of different processors, either as outgrowers or as in-growers, multiplying cassava stems and producing cassava roots for the processor's factory. So we believe that this model could also work in Sierra Leone, while we're trying to promote the adoption of improved varieties from slurry, leveraging technologies and leveraging the model that my brother Steven just explained here under the community or commercial seed entrepreneur model. Many private sector companies that are here, especially cassava processors, could also leverage the model for the processor-led model to ensure that you have the right cassava roots for your processing factories, because that's basically what's going to guarantee profitability at the factory level.
Thank you so much, Temi. Thank you so much. Please, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much, Temi, for that. As I said earlier, this session is a session that actually benefits everybody. From the research side, so we work with the breeders, because, of course, we need to have a pipeline of new varieties being developed by the breeders. So they have a role to play in the Basics model. That is one. But then, as we listen to presentations this morning, the Honorable Minister said something like we have different varieties that were developed and they are still not in the hands of farmers. Except we adopt the Basics model, that situation will remain the same. In Nigeria, Dr. Dixon and his colleagues, they developed over 50 varieties, and they are still not in the hands of farmers until we say to ourselves that, look, we have to do things differently. Of course, we understand that the extension system in Africa has collapsed, so that model is not working. We need to have a model that is what? Economically sustainable, where incomes are created across the value chain, where jobs are created, So this is what the Basics model is all about. And I hope that as we sit and listen, each and every one of us, we are trying to situate ourselves in areas that we can take advantage of this model. But let me go to Dr. Mercy, because a lot of conversation went on. And one of those was that, how do we handle the issue of early generation materials? Dr. Mercy works for IITA, but specifically with Gold Seed, which is situated in IITA as a private, private entity. And she will share with us some of the methods that she's using and how some of her methods that she has developed there has now been taken by other countries like DRC, as we can see in the video there, and even Tanzania and several other places. So, Mercy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Godwin. So, like you said, the key word is sustainability. That's the first thing we look at. So we have to devise models at which we can use to ensure that even after the project ends, there will be this continuity. So I know everyone has been mentioning my name as per the SH technology and all that. Before now, the cassava seed systems was non-existent. And I would think it's not because they don't want to do it, but I would say they didn't know how to go about it. That was the truth. Especially because it's a vegetatively propagated crop. So you really cannot track or trace, the generation of seed and all that. And this has led to the decline and decrease of the potential of several varieties. So at IITA Gold Seed and as a partner in the basics project, what we basically do is work closely with the breeders. We are like the interface between the breeders and the end user seed producers. We work with the breeders to assess, the new varieties. And, we must produce them using the SH. But that's not all. That's just one part of it. Because, like I said, we want to ensure sustainability. We work with seed producers. People were not aware of, these different classes of seed in cassava and all that. But we are creating that awareness, and that is what has led to people now, deliberately investing in cassava seed. It was just not there before at all. But I know Lawrence was saying he has been the backbone of the project. He will say they said this cannot happen, but I believe it can happen. And we've moved with that same drive. So in Nigeria now, like you rightly said, the cassava seed system is a big one. And that's because we have been able to, develop this structure. So we can clearly say what is breeder seed, what is foundation seed, and what is certified seed. And like I said, this is because of the technology. Yes, with the technology, we can easily trace, because these are materials coming from the breeder's pool. You understand? When they are just released, or from the tissue culture material. So with this, you can easily trace and track. So with the seed tracker and working with the regulatory body, that's the NAT, at least in Nigeria, and we have TOSCI in Tanzania. This has been very successful, and we have been having good reports about the yield, about the performance of these materials when people plant. And that's why we keep having increased people who want to know more about this, who want to go into the seed production proper from now. So this is what has been helping us. So we have not only been producing, but we have been creating the awareness. We have been training people. This is the right way to go. And not only that, we also work with Sahel to create business cases for anyone, no matter what level you are, at different levels. If you want to go at the small scale, we provide the business case for you. At large scale, we provide business cases for you. And so these are things we have been doing to ensure that people are coming into the seed systems in a formal and a more structured way. So that's.
Thank you so much. Please, let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much. Now I will give some few minutes to the audience. If you have a question, this is the time, or if you need any clarification before we come back and then we close this session. Make the question sharp and short.
Thank you. Since this morning we've been discussing the seed sector, but the formal seed sector. What do we do for the informal seed sector? Do we leave them as they are? Do we do a strategy for them? Or do we incorporate them into the formal seed sector? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a very good question. What we are doing in Nigeria is to see how we convert them. You know, you convert them. They see the benefit. Yes, they are doing it, but this is a much better way. So we see how we baptize them into the pharmacy sector. And that is happening quite well now. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Yes.
I'm Councillor Emeritus Ismail Mbangura. I'm a professor. The question I have here is, we have been talking about cassava, the corn, and the whatever. But here, I think we don't have, I stand to be corrected, we don't have the policies that can back us. Because if you produce your flour, where are you going to sell it? For example, the last time when we came here in a meeting, around the close of meeting for IIT or so, at the end of the day, we were taught how to make the different type of process, bread or whatever. But at the end of the day, when we came here, we were served imported things, leaving what we have been taught. Now you are talking of this. What is going to be our stand? If we invest our money there, are there going to be policies that are going to support us so that we can invest our money?
That's correct. And I think you are very right. This goes back to the presentation that Dr. Abbas made. If you watch the video, you discover that as we increase production, one of the things that private capital has done in other countries like Nigeria and even DRC, you see that they've moved into the inclusion of cassava flour into bread, and you could see the bread being produced in that video. This is an opportunity, and I think we talk about the Ukraine-Russia crisis, right? You have your money, but you didn't see wheat. We need to see how we can take advantage of technologies like this and see how we begin to take advantage of cassava, so that if Russia and Ukraine said, now we are not going to give you wheat, you still have your bread. Let me pass the microphone. Can somebody pass the microphone to Dr. Abbas? I'm sure when it comes to processing, he's the guru there. Abbas.
Okay, thank you very much. I like that question. And you are asking that question at the right time. The Deputy Minister is here. You see, we talked about Nigeria starting a policy on the use of alcoholic cassava flour in bread. We talked about DRC doing exactly the same thing. So you have asked that question, and I would like to have the Deputy Minister to talk about it, because this is the direction to go. But I need to also mention that where you are, where your processing factory is, talk to the bakers. Bakers. When wheat becomes expensive, they're always willing to use cassava. We don't have any law in this country that says bakers should not use high-quality cassava flour. That's the first thing. So they can buy high-quality cassava flour from you. So you can work with Slary and the rest of us. We'll get you on how to do that. But the policy statement is coming. I hand over to the Deputy Minister.
I don't know if you can hear me clearly. I have this persistence called distort my voice. On the policy of cassava, I think Dr. Dixon will back up this policy. The ministry has been communicating with IIT to see where we can implement the same thing from Nigeria to have a presidential cassava initiative. I think it is on course, and we are following up on that. We'll make sure it happens. The only thing, I am speaking here on behalf of the ministry. Once that is done, we can pass it on to cabinet. Of course, the president would love to approve that and take it to the parliament for final approval. And we have the technical person here, Director Kamara. They are working on series of policies. Be rest assured that it will be done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for that. So you see that this meeting is actually a practical meeting. It is actually a business summit with clear direction, actions, and solutions. Yeah. Let's take the microphone to him, and then at the back. Oh, somebody's here.
Yes,
We'll take the 3 questions.
yes, we've got experiences from the panelists there, and then we watched the video wherein we saw machines and then elaborately how farmers have grown in such a product. But then in Sierra Leone, our technology, the use of technology to the farmers here have not been as you expect. And then it's too new for here. But then the most difficulty that we have here, which we have not seen it addressed, because we are talking about seed business summit, building a roadmap, we have to think the first entry point in farming is the land preparation. Land preparation is a key. Because what the missing point is, not that the investors will not be coming here, but they are not meeting, or farmers are not having the right land that are being prepared for advanced or maybe increased productivity. So we really want to see, learn from the panelists or those lessons learned, what ways did they use to develop their lands onto that capacity they are not talking about, because we have to.
Thank you. Yeah. So let's go to the next, land preparation.
Thank you, moderator. I don't know if Dr. Brahma James is in the room. He was here earlier. Are you here? He probably left. I happen to have engaged him sometime in the early part of the year to talk about flour processing from cassava. And I think he's trying to introduce that technology here to see how it will perform on the market. As far as I know, it is not popular yet in Sierra Leone, but it is popular in Nigeria. And investors or private sector actors will be a little hesitant, to put money into such investment like he rightly mentioned. So probably an approach to this would be, let us see if somebody will be interested in importing that particular type of flour obtained from cassava into Sierra Leone and introduce it on the market. Introduce it with the bakers and let them test the market, the palatability and other things. Of course, there will be cost involved in shipping, shipping it from Nigeria. But nevertheless, we still ship flour from Europe. If flour is coming from Europe and we're still buying them, Nigeria is in the region, it might be less cheaper. So my appeal to you, sir, is a way you could test that and see if you can start importing flour from Nigeria just as a test case. And if it hits the market, then that gives you enough information. Yeah, this will pass if I invest such money.
Thank you so much for that observation.